Once again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Bashrat Din from Zumzum, your host for the webinar this morning. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today. We hope the next hour is going to be both informative and useful in terms of learning the answer to this question, why you should consider migrating your communication and collaboration platform to Google Apps for Business. And with me this morning, co-hosting this webinar is Brian Coffey from Google. I'll ask him to introduce himself in a moment. So let's proceed with this morning's agenda. So please feel free to call me Bash. I'm the Managing Director of Zumzum Limited. I'll introduce Zumzum in a moment. And as I said, Brian, if you'd like to just introduce yourself and say hello.
Yeah, thanks, Bash. As the slide showed, my name is Brian Coffey. I'm the Territory Manager for Google Apps, and I specifically deal in the UK and Ireland. I specifically deal with SMEs. So I would work very closely with partners like Zumzum to help, bring out the message of Google Apps and cloud computing. So thanks for coming, and I have a bit of a cough, so I'm going to excuse me if I start coughing during my bit of the presentation, but we'll press on anyway.
Super, thank you very much. And for those of you, most of you probably have done an online meeting before, and I've repeated this a couple of times already, and I can see a lot of you conforming to it. So just for the comfort of all participants, if you will be kind enough to keep your microphones on mute. As and when you think of any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat window. So you should see a little icon, as you can see here on the right-hand side, where you've got a chat bubble. Type in your questions as you...
Here is Liz.
The session at the end of the demonstration. And of course, any of those that we do not get to during the allocated webinar time, we will follow up with you individually via email. And again, don't worry if you miss some elements of either the presentation or demonstration, or if you don't see anything specifically that you were interested in seeing this morning. Again, put it in as a question, and we'll try and cover that in the Q&A, or indeed follow up with you individually. You will get a recorded copy, a link to the online webinar that you can review in your own time. And of course, feel free to share that with colleagues and anybody else that you think might benefit from both the presentation and the demonstration. So we've introduced the presenters. I'd like to take a moment or two to obviously introduce the two organizations, and then what I'll do is I'll hand over to Brian to express the Google vision for the enterprise. This is a great organization, a fabulous business that obviously is one of the most well-known brands from a consumer point of view, and I'm hoping today you're going to learn how serious Google is about its business in the enterprise and some of the great products and functionality that it's already been delivering. I'll then spend a few moments introducing Google Apps as an overview. Of course, I'm going to try and appeal to the lowest common denominator and make an assumption here. I know it's fatal to make assumptions. I'm going to assume at this stage you know nothing, so I'm just going to give you an elementary introduction to the Google Apps suite of products, and then we'll swiftly move on to doing a demonstration, and then give you a tip at the end of how to get started with a low-risk manner. And
here is
So a single slide introducing you to Zumzum Limited, and since Google decided to enter the enterprise space, what Google have also done is developed a reseller community, a bunch of partners that provide services to help companies answer, some of the fundamental questions of, what do I need from an email and collaboration platform? Is Google Apps capable of delivering that? So once you're comfortable that Google is certainly the most attractive option for businesses that want to collaborate in new ways, then helping you to get over that initial hurdle of planning and implementing a migration and ensuring that it's successful, and managing the change process with online and face-to-face training, and then continue to provide services on an ongoing basis to help you manage that. So Zumzum is a new breed of reseller established in 2007. I say new breed. We're a cloud computing consultancy and service provider. So none of the traditional legacy products we've ever sold. We're only interested in new range of products like Google Apps, Salesforce for CRM, and develop our own software products based in the cloud as well. So everything that we talk about is cloud computing. We provide services to help companies get to that model. And it often makes a few people chuckle that I decide to actually put a slide on introducing Google as a business. As I said, it's one of the most well-known brands in the consumer space. But the context of this slide, of course, helps us to understand how serious Google is and what a formidable company it is in terms of its ability not only to serve consumers, but to bring that capability to the enterprise space. And in our earliest evaluations of Google, one of the facts that I was most impressed with, and certainly is probably least known about Google, is that Google is the 4th largest server manufacturer in the world. None of the servers that Google manufacture are shipped outside of the organization. So, when you look at IBM, Dell, HP, these companies that build and ship servers to companies that have to, of course, install and manage them, the only servers Google build are those that they build specifically for the Google data centers. That means they're extremely secure. There's absolutely no risk of those being accessed from the outside world. There's hundreds and thousands of those identical servers spread across multiple data centers globally. So if you then really look at Google's capabilities of managing data centers, the claim is that it's 100% better than world class. So this is a core competency for Google, which is building and managing data centers that are extremely secure, where your data is going to be constantly available and is always backed up and is private. So therefore, bringing that data structure or that infrastructure to consumers, we've all been, or we're all aware of the Google search engine, which runs on exactly the same infrastructure, and it's constantly available. Products like Gmail that came to the consumer market space. So this is what is considered a multi-tenant model. And that same reliability is exactly the same platform that the Google Apps for business products are actually built on. And you'll see this chart here that shows the capacity of the Google system and the latent capacity there, the ability to scale that infrastructure up for millions and millions and millions of users. And the final point, of course, is one about security. For those of you that have ever done a search on the Google properties, google.co.uk, google.com, and you've seen the adverts on the right-hand side, that's billions and billions of dollars flowing through the Google system of vendors like Zumzum advertising on that platform. So when you're looking for Google App services, you do a little search, you find an advert, you click on that, and you're presented with a vendor's page. All those adverts are being paid by credit cards, and there's billions of dollars flowing through that system. So the top of the priorities for Google is security. And that quite often is one of those questions that arises, how secure is my data when I move it from my in-house systems to the Google platform? And you're going to find that the thousands of engineers that Google have working on security 24/7 is virtually impossible for any enterprise to try and replicate. So there is a video on YouTube for those of you that are interested in finding out how well those data centers are run. Do take a great look at that. So having built this infrastructure for the consumer space, Google then decided that corporations are being left behind as far as innovation is concerned, and web-based technology, and package and deliver this product with a slightly different set of terms and conditions. One of the misconceptions and I guess some of the publicity Google have been receiving about privacy, there's a different set of privacy when you're talking about corporations that are moving their data to the Google platform, with specifically a business set of terms and conditions compared to a free consumer product. So when I'm using Gmail personally and I see that my data is being indexed so Google can serve me adverts, I realize nothing in life is free. I mean, that is of course being ad sponsored. However, when you're going to see the Google Apps for Business presentation this morning of the demonstration, you won't see any adverts, and what that also means is your data is not being indexed. So when you look at some of the brands here that are trusting Google by moving their data to the Google infrastructure, of course security and privacy is going to be a massive requirement there, whether it's companies like Rentokil, The Guardian, and whether you're a one-man band or a Spanish bank with 100,000 plus users that you move to the Google App system, the beauty is that we're all using the same product on the same infrastructure, and that is a serious game changer. So in the past, your IT systems were dictated by the size of your budget, and what that meant was that average businesses, everyday businesses, couldn't afford to deploy the technology that some of these worldwide brands had been using. And now Google is changing the world by saying that we can all have that same capability and infrastructure on a pay-as-you-go basis. So if you need 10, 100, 1,000 users, then we're all buying only the users that we actually need. And that's highlighted by one of these specific examples here of a company I just wanted to point out. So most of us should be familiar with the Jaguar Land Rover brand. And this highlights the type of story whereby any organization that's considering building or upgrading their own email and collaboration system, when they take a serious look at the Google proposition. There's two parts to that proposition. Number one is the cost saving. So when comparing to replacing systems like, as you'll see on this slide, when replacing a homegrown or internal email system like Microsoft Exchange, and compare that to the cost of using the Google service on a subscription basis, there were millions of pounds worth of savings. So typically between 30 to 70% cost reductions on an annual basis. And the second part of it, so of course there's got to be a business case to support the initial desire to investigate Google Apps, but the second part of that is changing the ways that employees collaborate. So it's not just about replacing a like-for-like email system, but finding whole new ways to communicate and collaborate. And you can see here whether you're in the same office, dispersed, home workers, remote workers, or a global corporation like Jaguar Land Rover, it's all about helping your staff to collaborate much easier and much more effectively. And they're typically the two most common drivers, so cost saving and collaboration, that make companies move to the Google platform. So with that introduction, I'm going to ask Brian to take a few moments and talk through the Google proposition for the enterprise.
Great, thanks, Bash. Yeah, so as you can imagine, I speak to a lot of companies every day, just directly myself and also with Zumzum. And we kind of identified four, trends that we see happening at the moment. And I just want to quickly go through them and how they sort of fit into Google's vision for enterprise. So you can see in the top left there, innovation. So the example here is Locomotives. It's a Boston-based micro-manufacturing company who crowdsource car designs. They use online community voting to decide which to build, and then have the parts manufactured overseas and then sell the cars in kit form. Now, the key thing about this is that they're able to take a vehicle from concept to creation in under 18 months. So this speed makes them highly competitive in an industry that normally takes over 5 years to reach production stage. So it's an incredible example of how innovation can speed up process and change the way you actually do your business. With regards to collaboration, so you can see the study there by Future Foundation. They're a UK-based independent research agency. They identified an 81% correlation between collaboration and innovation. So I'm sure this doesn't really come as a surprise for most of us, since the more you collaborate, the more you exchange ideas, improve things, and ultimately drive innovation. But the question, really, what I'd like to ask you, and maybe have you all think about, is, what kind of tools are you providing for your employees so that that allow them to effectively collaborate together and ultimately drive the so much needed and wanted innovation in your businesses. So think about the role your IT organization can leverage your existing IT solutions to support innovation in your company. With regards to the consumerization of IT, so social, Gartner believes that by 2012, this year I should say, 50% of businesses will be using microblogging, so stuff like Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, all these different social platforms are now being used by businesses to share, useful business information to a wide group of colleagues, and not just your own colleagues, but to your to all your channels, so your partners, your suppliers, your own customers. So businesses are finding that this empowers ad hoc teams to build new ideas quickly. And mobility, well, this prediction came a couple of years ago, and we can pretty much see that it's come to pass. So smartphone sales is outpacing the combined sale of desktops and laptops at the moment. So mobile workers, they can effectively work from anywhere. And the reason you need mobility is, it's a necessity to collaborate, the necessity to have everything, your email, your documents on a mobile device, to be able to access them anywhere, at the airport, or in an emergency, if you're sick at home. You're still not, out of the office if something urgent comes up. And this leads to increased productivity and accelerated collaboration, and some benefits that that a lot of businesses who embrace mobility are seeing. Move on, there's Bash, thanks. So, if we look at those trends, what's stopping? We're wondering, what is stopping companies from moving and embracing those trends? Well, there's a few. Firstly, there's a lot of businesses have a very complex architecture. So Gartner's annual survey we find that 80% of IT spend is focused on keeping the lights on. With your complex architecture, it's going to be an email server, Active Directory, file servers, backup, antivirus, anti-spam, storage services, and then following that, you're getting patches and upgrades. And then what happens when your company grows? You add a number of users. You have to scale, so there's double the software license, double the hardware. And when I'm talking to my customers, sometimes I try and if I'm not really getting anywhere on this, I'll ask a kind of a provocative question, and I'll say, so why do you want a data center in your company? And the normal answer I get back is, it's not like we want.
Here is participant 15.
Well, at Google, we this is our business. This is what we do. And what we're trying to say is, you focus on your business. Our objective is, to help you sort of focus your IT infrastructure so that, it provides you with the possibility to give it to people who manage it better and on a much larger scale than you can. And by adopting new technologies, businesses are able to increase the amount of IT resources. You can focus on more strategic projects rather than, just maintaining what you have. With regard to personal productivity, I'm sure we've all had a situation where we've had to work together on a document. So at the moment, a lot of the current businesses, how they work, they're often forced to collaborate by sending multiple versions of documents as email attachments. So I'm sure many of you work like this today, and it can be frustrating. I worked in a company. My first good job out of college was a sales job. I was selling HP printers and consumables, and every week we would have a new price list sent out to us. And this meant, 100 people getting an attachment sent out to them, just because there might have been one consumable worth, instead of £19, it went up to 20. So that means 100 people have to download a new attachment that had 2 digits that was changed on a massive price list. With Google Apps, and we'll demonstrate it later, I'm sure, is you don't need to do this anymore. There's a better way of collaborating with each other and getting information out to each other. And I'm sure if you actually do a trial of Google Apps, you'll be surprised at how easy it is to create and build all shared documents. And something that Google Apps customers take for granted. With regards to complex interfaces, the traditional IT software tends to start the design process with the business process in mind. And this can really lead to interfaces that are not very intuitive for the users, and that can really, that in turn will lead to reduced productivity and really delivers a poor user experience. All web applications that Google builds, and starting from our search engine right up to Google Apps, they're designed for the user first and deliver a more intuitive experience, so that your users are comfortable using it and they find it easy to use, and that allows them to work quickly and more efficiently. And being device-centric in 2012 is something that we're seeing less and less of. As customers move to Google Apps, but there are many users that are still bound to a specific device, be it a desktop or a laptop, to get their work done. And this this often means that they need to be in the office or at least have access to a device to be productive. And it also heightens the risks related to security and data loss, especially if the users need to carry their laptops with them. So, going to where does Google fit into this, and why are we uniquely positioned to deliver the vision I sort of spoke about on the first slide, or my first slide? Well, we're web native. All Google products are built from the web, built for the web from the ground up. So we don't have a legacy code base to transition to the web. We don't have neither do we have legacy revenue streams to migrate from the web. We have hundreds of millions of users that we're able to understand what their needs are and quickly adapt our products to meet these. We have a 1% testing with our consumer Gmail users that allows us to pilot hundreds of new features and get their feedback on how they are. So what we do is, if we want to roll something out to our Google Apps customers or enterprise customers, we'll try it out with our consumer customers and see how they find it. Does it work for them? And then the better ideas get moved up to the Google Apps platform. And certainly the companies I speak to, that they can't do this at scale. They can't do this sort of practice at scale. We built our own infrastructure to meet the needs of our growing search business. So you can see the bit there about what Bash spoke about with our data centers. These data centers are built on a custom Linux stack with redundancy built in. There's no third-party software on there at all, so we're not subject to third-party attacks. And as Bash mentioned, we're the fourth largest server manufacturer. And we have engineering excellence. Our uptime is 99.9% guaranteed. That at the moment, that's realistically around 99.99%. We don't quite guarantee the 4 nines yet, but that's what we're running at. Our data centers, our processes, our people, have been audited for various security certifications like FAS 7, and we can send those out to you after. And the unique way we deliver applications via the web means that we can release products and features very quickly without desktop installs, patches, or upgrades. Last year we had roughly maybe 1 new feature a day. It was slightly under that, but the way you get that is by refreshing your browser. So really this is the last upgrade you would ever need to do. So that sort of sums up. I mean, the overall, our overall platform. So we have obviously our applications that you get with part of the Google Apps package, but we also realize that we don't want you to. We realize that on-premise systems, you can't just switch them off for some that you actually need. So we actually we allow you the middle section there with that says Your Apps. That's Google Cloud, our cloud platform, which allows you to build applications that will integrate with Google Apps. So you can build them on our infrastructure if you wanted to. And if you don't have that capability, well, we have Google Apps Marketplace. So if you search for Google Apps Marketplace after the presentation, it'll be the first link. That's third-party companies creating applications that integrate with Google Apps, and they're all managed from your Google Apps admin console. So stuff like project management or finance or CRMs, if you want those integrated with Google Apps, there are companies, very reputable companies, that have made some fantastic applications. Obviously, we have the various devices. So there's Chrome, Android, Chrome OS. Chrome just became the largest, the most used browser in the world. Obviously we have other applications that integrate with some products that you might still want to use. So for example, if you want to use Outlook, we've built an application that allows you to use Outlook with Google Apps. Or if you want to use even Office, we have a Google Cloud Connect that allows you to connect your Google Docs, you sync your Google Docs with Microsoft Office. So we realize that what I would say is where are you today and where do you want to be by this time next year in terms of cloud computing. We know that you're not going to get rid, you don't have to get rid of everything, and you can integrate some of your current stuff. But there's probably some other cloud-based applications that you're not availing of that would be very beneficial.
Superb. Thank you very much for that overview there, Brian. Let's dive into a little additional detail about Google Apps for Business. We're just going to highlight the main core applications of the Google Apps for Business suite at a very affordable £33 per user per annum. So it's moving IT from a capital expenditure model to an operating expenditure model. As we said, this includes the 99.9% service level availability that Brian highlighted. And to dispel, again, one of the criticisms that quite often the competition levy against Google is that you're unable to get support. When you're a consumer buying consumer technology that you're not paying for, then of course you're able to contact Google through the web or through email. When you're a corporation and you're subscribing to the paid Google Apps for Business product, in your Google dashboard, there's a link that allows you to connect to Google with a phone number and a support pin 24/7 for any issues that you're faced with availability on any of the applications. And all of that is published online as well in terms of Google Apps and Google status on a dashboard, so you can see availability and outages. So very transparent in terms of if there are any issues with that. but then a suite of functions that allow enterprises to link to the on-premise systems. But again, Brian said that we realize you're not going to displace all of these systems overnight, so whether it's linking to your directory systems or possibly even desktop applications, I'm going to put a challenge to you all and say that I believe that Gmail is the most superior experience for business users when it comes to email and collaboration. And I wouldn't be surprised that there's going to be many people out there with an opinion that they want to continue to use traditional products like Outlook. Of course, so whether I can convince you of that change, no matter how much training and effort and change management you invest in, there may well be some users that you just feel, well, we're going to let you carry on using your legacy PC products, so you don't have to abandon those, and of course still get the benefits of the cost reduction and collaboration in Google. At the bottom there, you'll notice a brand called Postini Services. So this is quite often referred to as Google Message Security and Google Message Archiving brackets Postini. So the ability to add spam and antivirus services and email archiving. Very soon, this is going to be superseded by yet a new innovation for e-discovery being delivered by Google called Google Vault. But let's concentrate on the core suite of products today. And I think one of the first things that many users contemplate is giving up a traditional PC-based email client and moving to a browser-based system like Gmail. Number one benefit is going to be the massive 25 gigabytes of storage, and both the limitation for a user of having to delete, and that was something that I always resisted when I used to use Outlook, is why do I have to delete emails? So I can meet my quotas that IT are dictating to me in terms of keeping my email down to a limit. And considering we're all creating so much content and communicating so much by email, the fact that moving to Gmail gave me this 25 gigabytes worth of storage, and having moved over 15 years worth of historic email, I'm still less than 15 or 20% of that 25 gigabytes. So it's an absolute huge amount. So IT don't have to worry about the fact that users are going to consume all of that storage space, but you as a user will never ever have to delete an email again. So being able to replace that PC client, but then once you're in the browser, this is where really the magic starts to happen of the user interface and how users will discover new functionality, just like any other website. And Google gets many accolades for its design of its Gmail interface. And one of the things I discovered was that even email is possibly not fast enough for me to communicate in certain situations. And being able to access instant messaging and voice and video directly in my browser. So if I see an email from a colleague who I think needs an immediate response, rather than, again, replying by email, I would then be able to instantly open up a chat message with them. The type of thing that I would be doing as a consumer on Skype or on Facebook or many other instant messaging systems, but also taking it beyond that and having a voice and video conversation. All of this happens inside the browser. That's Google's specific innovation in this space, without the need to download any software on the desktop. And I'm going to show you an example of that in the Gmail interface. Google Groups letting users create groups and distribution lists for communicating and sharing content without the need to contact IT. Calendar, one of those overlooked features that, again, I just love the user interface of the Google Calendar. Very easy to use. Obviously, it has all the power of the search, and the overlay functions just make it so easy to see what people are doing and find a convenient time to arrange appointments and meetings. And not only that, maybe being able to publish those calendars to other users or even out to the website if it's an event calendar or something like that. Google Drive. Google for some time have been developing a product called Google Docs. So you're going to see a component of Google Drive called Google Documents, which is a word processor, spreadsheet, and a presentation tool, among some other features as well. And most recently, this current innovation is about providing online storage with not just Google-generated content, but being able to take any of my content and simply drag and drop that to a local folder or directly up to the online storage space. And that content is immediately indexed so that I can search as if I'm searching google.com, but I'm searching all of my content or any corporate content that's searched with me. And I find documents and emails so easily these days, so we're going to show you some of that. And Brian mentioned, again, there may well be a need for a function called Google Cloud Connect. Perhaps you'll have some power users that resist leaving traditional products like Microsoft Office. Maybe they're a super user of Excel and they want to continue using that product, but also want to take advantage of the online storage that Google is providing, but adding a function that even Microsoft has not developed yet, which is the ability to co-author and collaborate in Microsoft documents by using Google's infrastructure as the gateway to allow us to work together on traditional PC-based applications. We're not going to really cover that during today's demonstration. We're going to concentrate on the web interface. Google Sites, and a lot of clients and IT departments don't think that they're going to be interested in Google Sites. You then present Google Sites, which is an end-user product to users and managers and executives, and they get extremely excited about the ability to be able to create a site, add content, and delete that site without ever having to call IT. Now, those could be project sites, team sites, individual sites, customer or supplier sites. So private site, everything that you create in the Google Apps environment is always private unless you choose to hit a button and share that either internally or externally with somebody with an email address. And show you being able to load up video, which is effectively a private network, a YouTube type network, but privately within your domain, so no content can leak out that organization. As we've said, some security products there as well. Brian already introduced the marketplace, so if you move to the cloud, you will find that you can actually deploy new applications in the same way consumer app stores are allowing consumers to download, test, and use applications. The same model exists with Google, so you can fill even more functionality with cloud-based applications and quickly roll out new functionality there. Let me switch over. I've got a couple of browsers running here. Let's switch to a demo account here. For those of you that have seen the Gmail interface, you'll find this familiar. I've got access to my other applications here on the left-hand side, slightly different rather than the traditional Gmail logo. You'll notice this is branded with our own look and feel, and obviously it's using our own user interface. Over here on the right-hand side, we're going to come on in a few moments to talk about the chat window. I use this almost as presence information, so I can see which of my colleagues are actually online. Normally it's over here on the left-hand side. I've decided to move that over here on the right-hand side so it's much, much more visible. And for those of you that continue to work with folders, you'll notice my list of folders here on the left-hand side here, even if they're nested folders. But quite frankly, I've changed the way that I work. One of my biggest pains and waste of times used to be quite often I would diligently store an email in a folder and then never be able to find it again when I needed to. Versus moving to the Google model is there's a search box here at the top, and I hit search, and as you noticed, in milliseconds, all the emails that match my criteria are actually returned to me. These, you'll notice, have a label on there with a demo, and not only my emails, but you'll notice that documents that match my criteria and sites also are returned in that search. So regardless of what I'm looking for, in a very few seconds I can actually find the content that I'm actually looking for. And you can see here that in that email, so not only in the subject or the sender, but the content of the email, here the emails come from demo, which is highlighted in yellow and is signed off by demo, and my search has returned this and has actually found all content that matches that criteria. So finding those emails is super simple. Let's return to my inbox. The other thing that I found as a great time saver is this idea of conversation view. You'll notice that some of these emails actually have numbers next to them, and you either love this or hate this. I think it's a brilliant innovation, massive time saver for me here. As you notice that when I open that email, although I can see the most recent conversation or email in that conversation, there are a number of emails that are actually grouped together, and with a click of a button I can expand those and I can see the previous emails that are all associated with this particular subject line. So the way that Gmail is working, it's grouping all of those emails together that are related to this. No matter how many different emails from different users I get, they'll all be stored together in one single conversation. So it makes it easy for me to catch up with that conversation and find out what's been going on. So again, if I review that most recent email, I can see all the previous emails associated to that conversation as well. So there is a function that you can obviously switch that off if you're not a great fan of it, but I think you'll find that's a massive time saver there for you as well. Other examples of productivity gains, let's take an example here. Working in the web, one would imagine that when I'm sent a Word document, as in this case, you can see somebody shared a Word document with me, and directly in my email, I can see a preview of that document. There's no more extracting of that attachment, downloading it to my desktop, and needing to open up Word. One of the great features that Google added is that right here, inside the browser, you see specifically Chrome that I'm using here, I can get a preview of this Microsoft Word document. I've not even had to even leave my email. Now, if I do want to see a bigger version of that, again, you'll notice that it's opening up and rendering. This has not changed the Microsoft document, but simply opens it up in the browser, and I can actually view. And you've noticed that I can store that directly in my Google Drive as well. That works with a bunch of different type of content. You know, here's an example of a presentation that Brian shared with me. Once again, I can actually click a button, and without leaving my email, I can actually get a preview of that presentation and review the content and decide to reply to whoever's shared that content with me as well. And if I wanted to open up in that a window and save it online as well, I've done that all without downloading any of the content to my computer. So I'm free to, again, see that content from any desk that I sit at, whether I'm at home, on my mobile device, or in the office. Now, although I said that, of course, users at first move from a PC mentality of create, file, and find are expecting their folder structure to be migrated, that's fine. One thing that obviously tripped me up was that email could only ever exist in one folder, but that's not the way that I was thinking about email content. So what you'll notice is that Google has this idea of labels, and although there is only ever one copy of that email, what I'm able to do is tag that email with multiple tags. So you'll notice that this email sits in the inbox, in my demo account, and a couple of other labels called online and sample. And if I wanted to add a new label to that, obviously you can see there's my list of, think of folders and labels as the same concept. You can use the idea interchangeably. The difference being that I can tag this email with multiple labels. And even if I don't have an existing label, I might want to call it Wednesday Webinar, if I could spell that. And add a new tag to it. And immediately those emails are tagged with this new tag. Of course, the label has been created on the left-hand side, and maybe I now wish to give it a nice, colourful look and feel to it. So when I go back to my inbox, immediately I can see an alert. And quite often I'm using this, I'll show you in a moment how to automatically tag those emails. So I'm using this to identify important emails in my inbox. But of course, if I then wanted to go to any one of those, let's say, for example, by clicking on online, it's effectively going to a folder. Here you can see that it's find all emails that have got the tag online. Of course, I can find the same email in the demo folder. So what was exciting about this is whether I've stored that under demo or online or sample or webinar, when I try and find it, first of all, use search. It's incredibly fast and easy to find your content. And secondly, I don't need to remember that I stored this under an individual folder. It might be that I'm looking for a customer with a customer name or the individual name, and I can go to all of those folders, and they're just different routes to finding the same email. Now, of course, I don't want to then spend all my life manually tagging those emails. So we're going to show you a process and a concept of being able to tag these automatically. Of course, you can see that I can remove labels. However, I might want to automatically tag messages. And this idea in Gmail of filters to automatically process inbound emails. So you notice here that it's picked up an email from Bash at Zumzum, and I could have other criteria based on subject line or content of the email, but I'm just going to use the sender's email address at the moment, and I'm going to attach a label to it, and let's put this label on Call Bash. At the moment here, it says there are also 110 existing conversations. Would you like to add those as well? And I'm going to go yes. And you'll now notice that any email that I receive from the sender Call Bash at Zumzum is automatically tagged with this label Call Bash. So great way for me identifying emails from important customers, projects, prospects, suppliers, and being able to immediately see a visual alert in my inbox that that email has arrived from that for that subject. Now, on other occasions, perhaps email is not fast enough. You'll notice this little utility here, a gadget that fits on the Gmail interface. I'm just going to load additional content. Because in this demo account, Bashrat Din exists as a content, as a contact, you can notice that indeed I can tag them with circles, which is a Google Plus idea, but also I can see recent emails and content, whether they're documents or emails from that individual as well. And if I wanted to, I could start a conversation, an instant messaging conversation with that user. So in this email, it may well be that thanks, got the message, that now I'm actually communicating real time with another user. And that instant messaging conversation will be stored inside the email as well. Now that I can see one of my colleagues online, so at any time I could say, good morning, Ray. And again, without leaving the browser, I can have a real-time conversation with a colleague. And again, if I think I need to communicate visually rather than just through that, I can say, can we use video? The first time you attempt to communicate through voice and video in the browser, it will ask you to install a little plugin. And once you've actually done that, you'll see that I have two options here to either make a voice call or a video call. And at any time, I can make a video call. We'll wait for Ray to answer his video. Morning, Ray. I'm good. How are you? Good. Thanks for taking a few moments to speak with us and join the webinar this morning. Super. How's the weather up there in Stockport? Lovely. I won't distract you any longer. I'll let you get back to your business. Thanks very much for joining the webinar, Ray. Take care. Bye-bye. Now, all of that's happened without leaving the browser, and I find that I use that with customers, suppliers, and employees to be able to communicate very, very quickly with them. And you'll notice here that any of those chats that you have are actually stored in Google and are searchable and indexed in the same way that a described email is searchable and indexed as well. So extremely powerful, very simple and easy to use. As I said, moving on to the other applications, you'll find always up here on the left-hand side under the menu. I might decide that I want to have a look at my calendar. So once again, I'm logged in as the demo user with our corporate branding here. And I might decide to search webinar. And again, in milliseconds, any content that matches is returned immediately. Alternatively, I can obviously go back to today's date, have a look at my calendar, or return back to our calendar. Let's just refresh that. You'll notice that there are other individuals with their calendar. Here you'll notice Bashrat Din's calendar is in green. If I deselect that, I can also see that perhaps one of my other colleagues down here is in a different color. So I can see this is Ray's calendar. So you can simply add and remove different users' calendars directly from your calendar, and now I'm left back obviously with just my own view of my calendar. And if I wanted to, obviously I could share out my calendar with other collaborators. So in my calendar settings, just like everything else in Google, I can simply click a button and there's an option here that says share this calendar, and I could type in the name of an individual who I want to give access to my calendar, and maybe all I want to do is give them free busy information so they can check my availability, but of course they can't see what I'm actually doing on those events at all. Moving over to the other interesting application that we talked about, Google Drive. And as I said, Google Drive contains the content that I either have created using my Google tools or that I've uploaded from my computer. So you'll notice here content that's actually shared with me, and also because these users are actually on Google Apps, you can see an image of those users that have shared that content with me as well. And again, here's another example of that Word document that sits directly inside the browser. At this stage, of course, I'm unable to edit this content because it remains a Word document, but what I can do is add a comment and collaborators and individuals that I've actually shared this document with can also then see those comments in the actual document itself. So there's a little option to create yourself notifications when anybody else adds content here. And perhaps what I want to do is share that file. And the same concept will be with any content that you load up, and I'm going to show you an example of collaborating much easier. And at any time, I could type in the name of an individual and choose whether they're able to edit this content, view it, or comment on it. So I'm going to give Ray the opportunity to view the content, but not be able to edit any of that content. Of course, if at any time I decide that I've changed my mind and I don't want any of those users to have access to this content, I can simply click the button and remove them from the list as well. And it's easy as that to add and share content on Google. So let's say that I wanted to upload a new file, and you can see here on my computer is a little file that I want to upload, and it's uploaded and converted that content for me into a format that I can actually edit online. Let's go back to my drive, and what I am able to do is change the view of this content as well. You'll notice that I can have a slightly different layout. You'll notice in here there are images, Word documents, PDFs, even videos that are stored here in my Google Docs content, and I can play them directly in the actual video. Okay, I have a file open here, and you'll notice that in this document I can see that there is another collaborator, and I can chat directly in the document. Can you update the actual numbers for the sheet? So no more sending and receiving documents via email, whether it's budgets, Word content, presentations, and the problem with reconciling all of those changes and putting them together into the most recent version of the document. You can see here that in fact we have one document online that we're all able to edit at the same time, subject to obviously who I've shared this document with, and it's real-time collaboration and changing content as we work together. And maybe I can see Ray is about to change that field there, so I don't need to worry about that. The numbers will be updated, and we've worked together. And again, this collaboration works both internally and externally of your organization. So once again, if I want to share this particular document, you can see there's a list of collaborators that are already on that document, and I can add and remove collaborators to ensure the security of that data, and it's done. That could be individuals, or it could be groups and departments that you can share and collaborate with on that content. That, as I said, works for the various different types of content that we're able to create in terms of documents, presentations, or spreadsheets there as well. And to bring all of this together, what we're able to do is to use the Google Sites product. You'll notice here that I've created a number of sites already. I'm certainly not technical. I'm not a developer. I don't plan to use any development tools at all. This is as simple as creating a word processing document. I can give it a name. I could choose a theme if I wanted to, and of course this site can be categorized as well. I'm going to start off with a blank template and go create. And I've created a new site on the Google infrastructure that I, as an end user, can now edit this content and say, welcome to my new site for the May webinar project. And I could also insert lots of different content from here. You'll notice that any of the spreadsheets that we have, for example, the budget file that we were working on, I could choose to import or insert that content if I wanted to, or any calendar or documents, any of the content that we've created in the Google environment, we can use to bring it together here. And once I've created my site, again, I can choose to share that content. As always, it's actually private unless I've specified an individual. Let's share this with Ray, and we're going to let Ray view the content without making any modifications to it. So depending who in your organization you're sharing these sites with, you'll define a role for them. And in good old Blue Peter fashion, let's take a demo site here with a few Google gadgets already installed in it. As you see that once I'm creating pages, my menu system on the left-hand side is automatically created for me, so I can have nested pages. Here's a calendar embedded with some activities. There's also a Google video embedded in it, some recent announcements and files that we've actually loaded up. So I could go to the news page, and since I'm able to edit content here, I'm going to add a new page and go when webinar made. We're just going to make it a standard web page. And again, we've just added a brand new page. If we go to announcements, we can see images and contents and pages that we're actually loading up. So it's a great place to bring all of that content together, whether you're sharing it internally as an intranet or a site with customers and suppliers. And all of that is done, as I say, hosted on the Google infrastructure, included in the price that we've actually quoted for the Google subscription. So a huge amount of value is brought to you from the Google proposition. So just getting back to our summary, there's the products that we've actually been through individually, and what we're suggesting to organizations that want to dip their toe in the water and sponsor the idea internally that they should take a serious look at Google Apps is to start a small pilot. Quite often, these kinds of projects need some internal champions that can take the technology and apply it to problems and business processes and create benefits for the company. And to do that in a low-cost, low-risk way, and to take a very controlled approach about moving over to the Google platform. This can be implemented without destroying any of your existing infrastructure like email or your servers. It's what Google referred to as a dual delivery email pilot. That means if you wanted to test email, of course, if you just wanted to test documents, then it's even less work, i.e. if you want to use Google Drive or Google Sites or those things, you don't even have to play with email. But the whole suite means that we can set up, we leave your existing infrastructure where it is, and we set up a shadow system. The Google system sits in the background and receives a copy of your inbound email. So your normal production systems are not affected in any way. They carry on operating as normal, and some of those nominated users can then go into the Google system and fully test the email, the documents, the calendar, the other suite, play with them, test them, and provide feedback that will help you to make an informed decision of whether this is a good idea for the business and to support the business case in terms of cost savings and changing of that. And you know, a 30-day trial is a very low cost, £99 to set up for a single user. So a really, really good way of moving forward. So in terms of, we're up to our allocated time this morning. I've asked you to share a significant amount of your time, so I'm not going to take any more of your time this morning. There's a few questions that we'll follow up via email, specifically some of the content like the Google video and the security video that we've been asked to share with you. But what I'd like you to go away and think about is, how can you make your employees more productive? Are there opportunities in your business to lower your IT cost and complexity? And is there a way that you can increase the security and reduce the compliance risk? And all of that will mean that Google Apps will transform your business. So Thank you very much for attending this webinar this morning. We're going to follow up via email by sending you a link of the recorded webinar and answering any of the questions that we didn't cover during the presentation. So thank you very much. Have a nice day.